we talked with those customers. We did like thousands of interviews, but I do believe that that's the future.
We're not using naive encryption, we're taking it up a level.
With confidential computing, you can now rely on someone else's data without actually tapping into the data. It will be confidential, and I'm gonna trust it. There are some parts of my life that I want to stay private, but I still want my agent to be capable to knowing all that without explicitly giving this information. With confidential computing, you can go up to one person without actually giving his personal information.
Hi, today I am joined on Confidentially Yours by Alex Pyatigorskiy. Very pleased to have you on, Alex. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Pleasure to be here. It's a
Excellent.
great day.
Good. So, well, it's a horrible day here in the UK, but I live in the UK, and that's part of what you have to deal with. I'm afraid, lots of rain. So that's fun. I can live with that. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about you. So tell me first of all a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are. What your background is. Sometimes I kind of like to say, some people see themselves as very techie on the techie side, and some people see them as very management. Some people in the middle. Where do you see yourself in terms of that spectrum, or how would you define yourself?
I'm usually the guy that stands in between the three domains, being the technical side of things, the technology, the product side of things, and the client side of things. So my job as CPO, head of product, is usually to define the strategy and the tactics on how we can get to the point where we needed by the customers with the top-notch technologies, and we do have the market fit in terms of like a business sense of it. Let's put it this way. That's kind of who I am.
Excellent. So CPA, Chief Product Officer, is that right?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's a fairly new title. I've been seeing it a fair amount over the last few years, but it's 25 years ago. I don't think you would have seen it anywhere.
No, first time I was in this kind of CPO position was like 12, 13 years ago, something like that. But basically, my job, I started from the startups. So that's where my background is, but way back. But for the most part of my career, I've been working with the larger corporations, with the big companies, in a position of someone who kind of bringing them and making a transition towards the digital side of things, digital side of the business, direct-to-consumer communications, this part of things. And that's where the chief digital officer role came. And then when everybody realized that when you build a product, it's not that you can build it like for the offline and then for the online. Now it's all merged together. There is no offline anymore for the most of the industries. Kind of the process of product building was changed. And that's the moment where the chief product officer position kind of was born.
Yeah, I have to. I've always enjoyed roles where you're looking in different directions and having to sort of mediate between them and understand the different frameworks that people think about and use, and be able to apply them across those roles. So let's talk about some of the stuff you've done over the years. So I know one thing you've been involved with is intellectual property management, IP, right? Can you tell us a bit about what you've done there?
So I've been working in several industries. I've been working in telco and finance for the last many years, but there was a time that I was working for the media industry. Especially I was working for the Walt Disney Company. Probably you've heard about this one.
I really have heard of Walt Disney, yes.
Yeah, and one of the big challenges for any intellectual property rights owners, especially those who are dealing with the digital distribution of those rights, is how do you properly manage the usage of those rights? Because basically you are the one owning the whatever franchise content, whatever it is, and you are giving it to the many platforms to utilize, and you need to charge them according to the usage of those property rights. And that's holds a lot of challenges in terms of, like with most of the data sharing, when we're talking about the sensitive data, it's always comes down to the main point of who can I trust with this data? How can I be sure that this data is not is something that I can trust in terms of nobody did anything to it, and I can make sure that everybody around me, all my partners, can trust to this information. So the same challenge, kind of one of the big ones in the rights management, because you need to make sure that whatever information you keep, the track record of the usage of your whatever you own, is not tampered with. And everybody knows it, and everybody trusts it, and everybody pays according to whatever this set of data is telling you. That's the main challenge there.
So you've had problems with with wireless. You've moved to wired. Good old technology, excellent. But speaking of old technology, some of the this intellectual property stuff, presumably how that works has changed a bit with AI, right? Is the have the risks and the trust issues changed over the last couple of years? Do you reckon?
It's changed dramatically when the distributed technologies were implemented, and basically you had a third party that can be absolutely trusted, that can be like 100% sure that nothing is tampered. Now, instead of someone like a company that you need to entrust with this information, you can entrust it to the technology, and that's a major change. It simplifies things. It allows you to have much more control over it. Obviously, AI, it's changing the approach on how you can identify the problems, because now you can do it like in a pace that you would never do it with with a human in the loop. I'm seeing that from the finance perspective. I mean, you literally cannot do the current state, like transaction monitoring, sanction screening, and things like that without AI. I mean, those financial institutions who are trying to keep it the old ways, I don't know how they manage it, because just an amount of information that you need that is changing it every single day, it's enormous. And when you try to keep up with the education of your people, that's just impossible. So yeah, AI is changing the whole approach to it.
And I think that's I mean, verifiability is a word that we hear certainly across the financial world. And I'm sure again across the IP and the media world as well, and certainly in AdTech, where you need to be sure that the information you're getting out is directly related to the stuff that you put in. So the provenance can be tracked all the way back to the original data sets or IP instruments you put in or whatever it may be. And confidential computing allows you to do that, of course, because you can track back and you've got attestation measurements cryptographically backed to allow you to do that. So, have you seen the finance world looking at confidential computing for this sort of thing in your experience?
Yes and no. I'll explain. The problem that I see with the utilization of confidential computing is that generally there is a tendency within larger corporations to control the flow of data and basically where it is. The confidential computing allows you to rely on to give someone else your data to rely on without basically exclusively giving the data, without giving an like an explicit access to the data.
Allows sharing and collaboration in new types of
Yes,
ways,
and
right?
vice versa. You can now rely on someone else's data without actually tapping into that data. Um, Many years ago, this was possible only through something that called like a black box, which was very difficult to build, very expensive to maintain, and I've seen many pilots, but no actual big implementations on top of that technology. At least in my experience, just because it's so costly, it's so difficult, it's so it raises so many questions. So with confidential computing, the problem is that I think when the trust is not there yet. I mean, the mindset, and
So the
that and
technology
that's
is leading
yes.
the business. It's the head of the business, and people aren't ready yet to make the most of it. Yeah, no, that makes a whole bunch of sense.
I was
Absolutely.
pitching the confidential computing technology at least to 6 different companies as the very best solution to their main problem that they have at the time. And it is clear to me that that's the best way to do. That's the cheapest, the most convenient, very reliable, and it's just not that common. Not that many CTOs know how to work with it, and that's why the trust is not yet there. But I do believe that that's the future. Absolutely.
Excellent. And so finding ways, the way that, for instance, Superagile is doing to make it easier to use, packaging it in ways that you don't need to write it all the way up from the ground up yourself and understand the chips is clearly a good approach. So we talked a little about IP, we talked a little about finance. I believe you also spent a fair amount of time in telco. Any any thoughts around telco, what you've been doing there, and how this fits into this new brave new world?
Absolutely. Look, telecom is in a very fragile position. I mean, as the industry globally, it becomes basically a utility business. It's just a provider,
Commoditization.
right?
Yep.
So once in many countries, what we see is that they already gave this unlimited data package, and that's it. Client don't want anything out of the telco anymore. That he don't need anything. If he has unlimited data, he has good connectivity, so enough towers, right, across the country. What do you else need from a telco? And then there is a competition, and competition usually pushes the prices down with the marginality of the business and everything. And that's pretty much what happened with television many years ago. Where are those very wealthy TV broadcast companies now? So, being a telco, you have a couple of ways on how to survive. I'm not going to go in details into that, but basically, you can become an ecosystem. You can adopt a lot of like out of the telco services. I don't know, share rides, ticketing, tourism, whatever, and try to adopt being like more of a multiplayer,
Portfolio.
portfolio
Um,
company than
yeah.
just a telco. But that's costly. It takes a lot of time, and it eats marginality on all the fronts because you need to give the additional value to the customer. Or you can also try to squeeze extra money from the knowledge that you have. Many telcos are doing that. I was doing that in telco that I used to work for. I was building the big data capabilities. We're not using the AI word at the time, and I was building the big data solutions with ML even before nobody was using the big data words. So for example, one of the good usages of this data is advertising. You can build a real-time bidding RTB solution, right, on top of it. And what it allows you to do, it allows you to use the knowledge about the customers without explicitly giving the knowledge to anyone else, because that's against the law in any good country.
Okay, so confidential computing allows you to do
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
You could do that before just by anonymizing and all of that, but confidential computing giving you so much more over here. So one of the first experience on advertising we did many years ago with one of the larger automotive manufacturers. The idea was that they can buy for the same amount of money, they can buy more users, but those users will be explicitly looking for the car that they are selling.
So much better qualified. And
Yes.
that and to talk us through exactly how that happens. What allows those steps to get to where they are that couldn't happen before?
Look, the problem is that if you have like a segment of 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 people of that sort, that's okay, because that's wide enough segment. You can give it to your whatever companies pay you for the segment without explicitly opening information about who those people are. But with confidential computing, you can go up to one person without actually giving his personal information. The steps are very simple. You know, you have the data, you have the click stream, you know what they were looking for. It all goes through your system, so you know that. You need to build a model. The model is relatively easy to build. You have behavioral patterns, you have social patterns. If this person is just looking at the nice pictures, but actually driving a bus every single day to the job, because you know that from the triangulation and all of that.
Because okay, so geolocation comes into that. It can be a really strong
It's
part, and
just
that's something which the telcos are particularly well placed to access, right?
absolutely,
Geolocation
but you
data.
can never give this information out to anybody outside of the network, because that's basically explicitly saying something which is illegal to say. It's you're stalking someone at this point, right? But with confidential computing, when you just assign an index and share it without sharing any personal information, and you also provide a railways to connect to this person to relay a message, now it's possible. So now you can basically build the RTB enhanced by the confidential computing, which
RTB.
a real-time
Let's
bidding solution,
thank you.
a real-time bidding solution. Basically, that's where the bidding happens when you open a website and you see like some advertisement banner placed there. So by the time your page will be loaded, there is a real-time bidding happening on showing you advertisement between several advertisers. So that's the solution. It consists of three parts. One of them, and the major one, is data management platform. And this data management platform nowadays can be built on the confidential computing, which allows you to share way more and be way more secured and trusted. Because for now, what's happening is that if you will, I don't know, search for cattle, after you will buy this cattle, the cattle will be running after you for weeks after that. Why? Because the company that knows that you already bought a cattle will never tell it to anyone, because that will lower their income.
Yeah.
Right? So you are stuck in the loop as a user. You're stuck in the loop of seeing this
Oh yeah,
unnecessary.
I bought some new headphones fairly recently, and for weeks I got headphone adverts. And despite the fact that I bought some, right? What's the point? Very
And
annoying.
actually, even the platform that you bought them on will continue to show you this ads, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, if we're talking about precision and we're talking about the up-to-date information, confidential computing is a solution.
Perfect. That's really good. And so that's kind of the telco world, and similar things, I guess, for the financial sector as well, right? That they have access to different data, which you can combine in different ways. Are they taking a similar approach?
I will share an unpopular view on the financial world, because
There's lots of unpopular views about finance. Don't worry, that's fine.
that's
We can
okay.
live with that.
I'm working in finance for many years. I've been working for a bank, for the fintech companies, but I came from the digital world, which means that I'm looking at all the services, all the product that I'm building from the customer's perspective. And in many ways, customers need from their banking institutions way more than they're getting right now. And I'm telling that not just because I'm assuming that. We did a research, or like we talked with those customers. We did like thousands of interviews, and I was amazed by what people were saying. And they were saying things like, look, you are my bank, right? So you know how much money I have, you know how much money I'm earning because my salary is coming to your accounts. You know where I live. I explicitly told that to you, but you also have my mobile application. I have your mobile application. I know that you're tracking me. So you know that every single evening I'm going to the same location and I'm sleeping there, right? You know who is my internet provider, who is my wireless connector, right, at home. You know how much paying into them. So you basically can go to the website and see what tariff plan am I using. So what's my bandwidth, right? So you know all of that, or you can easily get it from the open information. Why the hell you are not the first one to tell me that there is a new provider for a lower price in my location? Why you are not taking care of me? I'm trusting you with all this information and you're not doing nothing. You sit in ducks and not doing nothing with it. That's, I was like, holy cow. That's a totally new perspective on how those financial institutions need to serve their customers, right?
It is really interesting because, there's for years there's been people complaining that people take the banks and financial institutions take too much information about them and then kind of misuse it. What they're saying is, you got this information. If you're going to use it to my advantage, and I'll become a more loyal customer, right? And you could get money from deals with new internet providers and stuff as well. Okay, right, that makes a lot of sense too. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if my bank was a bit more proactive in some of these things as well. I get that, absolutely.
And there are so many use cases like that where basically all this knowledge that's sitting there can be very useful to you, which can create an actual loyalty from you to these financial institutions, because that's what's not there anymore. What's loyalty do you have? None. So tomorrow someone else gives you the better interest rate or the bigger cash reward, and you jump in ship. That's it.
Yeah,
So they need
yeah,
to pay. Obviously, just by the like higher margins of the business, they are very secure. So they're kind of trying not to screw whatever they have right now. But that's not forever. I do see the markets where new digital players are changing the rules, and the big players need to get it and need to start acting like
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yes, some banks are doing something around that. I know banks that are engaged in the confidential computing, and because once again, that's the way for you to collaborate without an explicit opening the data, which is illegal this time again, right? Like with the telco, it's very sensitive. But now we
These are
have a tool.
highly regulated industries, and for good reason, right? There
Yep,
there have been
absolutely.
lots and lots of abuses,
Yes.
but that doesn't mean that there aren't ways of actually doing things which can benefit the business and their customers and their ecosystem, and that's what we're talking
Uh,
about, right?
It all comes down to the point where we need to find more user-friendly ways of utilizing the confidential computing. Confidential computing can be, in many ways, a solution to the social engineering problem, which is so big and so fastly growing around the globe. It can be a solution for many things. So the main point being, we need to find the use cases which are very user friendly, that will allow access to this technology to everybody.
Yeah, and again, I know that Super is working very hard to try and make this stuff easier to use. I have an analogy that I sometimes talk about security technologies, which I call the vacuum cleaner technology analogy, right? Which is, nobody buys a new vacuum cleaner because they want to, right? Or almost nobody. Most people buy a new vacuum cleaner because the last one broke, or they've moved to a bigger house, or they've now got kids who drop food on the floor, or they've got a dog who sheds hair all over the place, or whatever. These are the reasons you buy a vacuum cleaner, right? It's not a fun purchase, right? It's not like maybe a new pair of headphones you're excited about. It's For most people, it's just not, right? And lots of security technologies are like that. People buy them, CISOs buy them, or that whoever it is buys them because they need to meet a regulatory requirement, right? But there are certain technologies, and I think confidential computing is one, where they can actually enable new things. You can enable new business and enable new ways of doing things, which takes you beyond just the grudge purchase to an enabling purchase. And you just talked about some of the ways in which you're doing that, right? You're not building this stuff because your regulator says you can't do this. You're building it to say, well, if I use this stuff, then there's a whole bunch of new things I could do, and I'll meet the requirements of the regulator and my customers and my ecosystem.
I love that you use the vacuum cleaner, because I'm literally using the vacuum cleaner every single time when I need to do like a refresher or training for my product guys on
Okay.
how do you build a product, how do you define the UVP, the unique value proposition.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
vacuum cleaner is a great example of that. So if you would go way back, like when the age of vacuum cleaners just started,
Yep.
nobody ever bought a vacuum cleaner for the it's not that loud or anything like that. The actual UVP of the vacuum cleaner at the time was time.
Yeah,
You're
it
buying
saved you
extra
time. You didn't
time.
have to sweep as much. Yes,
Absolutely.
100%.
So
Yeah.
the homeowner, the whoever brings money into the family was not. He was buying. He was spending money on vacuum cleaner. They were costly at the time, right? He
Yeah.
did not care about the how the home was swept by hand or by the with vacuum cleaner, right?
Yep.
But he was buying a free time for the person who was doing that.
And that's usually a he and for a she, generally, because
Yes,
that's the way
yes,
the roles work. Yeah.
yes. So what I'm saying is that that's a very it's an amazing example of a product where you need to look at the actual UVP. So that's exactly with the confidential computing. That's exactly here. So it's not about the technology, it's about the UVP behind the technology. What's the unique value we can build? And until it's uncovered, until it's clear, that's basically
And
the biggest
yeah,
driver
and
for the technology.
I think when people first looked at it, they assumed I can run stuff in the cloud which I couldn't before. Now that's fantastic and that's great. Don't get me wrong, that's very useful a value proposition. But when you start thinking about, oh, and I can start doing collaboration with my ecosystem and building value for me, for them, and for my customers directly, that just broadens it out hugely. This is great, but I want to move on to another thing. Tell me a bit about what you're doing at the moment because this is really interesting. I know you do some stuff around messaging platforms, uh, and also around unique value propositions and collaboration. So, talk to me about that, please.
Yeah. So currently I'm working
Mm.
with a company called Vama. Vama
How do
essentially
you spell that?
VAMA. Vama.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Okay, yep, great.
Essentially, Vama was originally created to be a messaging platform enhanced by the payment technology. So you can think of it like a WhatsApp, Wise, or Cash App or
PayPal
whatever. Or
or
PayPal
okay, yeah,
could have a baby that would have both
okay,
capabilities, right? Um, Obviously, the communication part of the things is, I would not say easy. It's still very complicated technology to have everything updated,
sure.
the scale of it. But it's not as regulated as the finance part. So we came there faster. So you can download an application right now. The communication technologies are there. We already launched the wallet on the US for the US customers. It's
Mhm.
for now it's the closed launch, so it's like friends and family kind of environment because we're testing everything out. But
Sure,
soon we will open the solution for every US user. With obviously intention to go globally to give instant
of
cross-border
course.
money movement.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is that once again, I'm a product guy. My job is to find this UVP, this unique value proposition. So
Yep.
when I joined the company and I started to do the research, basically just learning about how the people using money, what we realized first of all is that every single transaction, especially when we're talking about person to person, peer to peer transactions, every single transaction is a conversation, right? Regardless if that's you helping your grandmother to buy some medicine or to buy whatever, or you paying your carpenter, you would never do that before the job is done. So you need to have a communication. He need to send you pictures of the job done, and then you will send money, whatever. So it's always a conversation. And now those two words are totally disintegrated. So you need to have a communication in one place, and then you need to have a transaction in another one. And we're like, why not just put them together and give the convenience of two blue check marks on the payment when you not only know that
Okay,
them.
so walk me through. So let's say I'm not a carpenter, but let's say I am I can do carpentry, and you've asked me to do something for you. How's the conversation work? What are we
So
doing?
in this case, it's a simple chat between you and me. And when we're talking stuff, you're asking me, colors, materials, whatever is the
Okay,
conversation is about.
so okay, you want me to build this thing for you, and I could do it these colors, and I estimate that it's going to cost $250.
Yeah, and then we
That sort of thing.
agree. Then we agree. You
Okay,
come, you do the job, or I do some prepayment, and then in the end of the day, I need to pay you like in full the rest of the money, right?
I
So
would like that. Yes, please. I'd like to be paid.
so within the same chat, I'm just clicking the send money button and just sending you the
Right.
money.
So actually, in the same app, same UI, just I can send it right. Okay, I'm
Right,
with you. Carry
right,
on.
right in the chat. So the alternative is that I'm gonna go to another application, banking application, whatever, wallet application.
Yeah, and I'm gonna need to send you my details,
Yes, you need.
and we have to decide whether it's PayPal or my bank account, or whether I'll accept cash, or and then I've got to copy the details across, and you've got to make sure. And we've all done that wrong, right? And the bank
Yes,
then says, "Well, are you sure this is a business account?" And you're probably being scammed. All yeah, it's a real pain.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, got you.
So
Carry on.
in this case, I'm just clicking send money button. I'm just typing amount of money and I click send. And the next moment, I see, uh, as with any message, right? I see the gray check mark saying that it's sent, then two that it's
Yep.
received, and then they become blue, which tells me that you've seen it. I don't need to screenshot. I don't need to tell you that I've sent you the money. I don't need to wait for you to confirm that you received the money. I know that instantly, right here, right there. But that's not the magic. The magic,
Okay, what's the magic?
the magic comes with AI, because with many of those conversations, let's say I'm not a bad person. I'm not a bad person. Let's assume I'm not a bad person, but I forgot to send
Okay.
you the money on time, right? I'm not a
Yep.
bad person. I told you that, right? So
Okay.
it happens to the best of us. I don't know. Something
Yeah, yeah. All
happened,
right.
and
Okay.
I
You
forgot.
got called to the doctors when you're gonna pay me. Yeah, okay, I get it. Whatever.
Right. So now you have to be either the one who reminds me, which is an uncomfortable position to be, or the one who waits, which is an uncomfortable position to be.
Yeah.
If we have AI that take cares of you, the AI will remind me. Your agent will come and say, "Look, come on, it's been 24 hours or whatever hours we set the
Yep.
AI.
Yep. Yep.
Now I'm not, oh, this person is reminding me what he's thinking I'm a bad person. No, I know that that's a computer reminding me, not you. You're not the one to blame, right? And we all been in those situations. I don't know, like
Oh yeah.
you went to the restaurant with a group of friends, like four or five people, and someone closed the bill. Let's say that was you. And now you need to remind your friends to pay you back. And then there is a whole conversation on how do we split it? Do we split it evenly? Do we split it itemized?
I didn't have the paella. I only had that. Yeah, I know.
And and
We've all been
I mean,
there.
I'm the one not drinking alcohol, so I'm usually end up
Yeah, so you should pay 40% less or something. Yeah. Okay.
whatever. So
Okay.
with AI, it's as simple as you pay the bill, just take a picture, send it to the same group chat where we discussed the dinner. Let the AI deal with the rest. Let's say someone send you like decided to pay like a fourth, or because there were four of you there, and someone paid itemized, and you ended up with extra £3. What you would do with that? Do you keep it? Do you send it back? How do you send it back? How do you calculate it? You need to pull up the calculator. AI can deal with all of that, and all the communication happen behind the curtain. Someone forgets to pay you, AI deal with that. The problem with this, and that's the major one, that
Yeah.
cannot be done on top of the current communication suites like WhatsApp or Telegram.
Sure.
Because at the time, we were crazy about security and we put this encryption. So now we end up with two solutions. Solution number one, we forget about encryption and let AI agent listen to that.
Okay. I'm not very keen on that option.
Absolutely. The option number two, you launch your AI agent on your device, which means that the actions on this AI agent on your browser, on your phone, will be different because those will be two different agents. Sorry, with the different patterns, with different information that they can behave
Sure. Okay.
strangely. That can be strange, right?
That doesn't seem like a very good option either. Then.
Also, it's gonna eat your battery really quick. Let's be honest. They're hungry guys for the electricity and power. So how do we deal with that? And here we go back to the confidential computing. let's not use encryption. Let's use confidential computing, because now we can not only secure all the information so nobody can get access to our personal communication, our pictures, videos, whatever we're sharing, but we can also allow AI, whatever agent we trust, our own build agents, whatever we trust, to be there inside the communication, and we control that it never goes out.
And to be clear, all of the communications are still encrypted, but we've moved it up a level by providing
Absolutely.
confidential computing as the place where it happens. So we're not losing security by saying, but we're not using naive encryption.
I would
We're
say
we're taking it up a
I
level.
would say we actually edging up a notch the
Yeah,
encryption part. We've been making it
yeah,
better.
absolutely. Cool.
So
Yeah, I don't want people to hear this and think, oh, they're not doing encryption. That's not what's happening at all, right? You're using encryption, but it's alongside the extra capabilities that confidential computing provides you, which is keeping all the stuff safe from whoever, and in a way that all the different parties, whether it's me and my friends or me, the carpenter, and you, can all trust, right?
yeah, I mean, how many cases of exploiting personal information have we seen? All those nice, very easy or absolutely free to use tools that connects to all your bank accounts in order to uh, create for you your like family budget or whatever, and then
Yeah.
selling your information. All those like add-on keyboards with the fancy swipe features that ended up selling your information. Now you can have all these things, all those technologies, without being afraid that your information is being used for the wrong purposes.
And just to be clear, this is one of those occasions where we could be talking about agentic AI, right? Because
Absolutely.
this AI is an agent for you and for your friends, acting on all of your different behalves to get stuff done, and taking your agency, which you've granted it, to ask for the money or to take the payment.
Yes, absolutely. And I strongly believe in the AI agents as a whole. But the biggest problem is that for your AI agent to be like with any assistant or secretary or whatever, it takes time for them to get to know you in order to be your actual assistant, not to be intrusive in the moment when you don't need it, to know what your habits are. It takes
And to
time
but to
and
know
information.
when it's the right time to ask for more info if it's unclear, all
Absolutely.
those sorts of things. So it's learning. Yeah, it needs to
Yes.
learn that. Yeah.
And the problem is that right now, the AI agents that we have a lot of opportunities, but whatever is used by the majority of the people is the AI agent launched within the large corporations, which are basically giving you those agents for this price in exchange for your information, in exchange
Sure.
for all this knowledge about you. I don't want this confidential information to go out there. There are some parts of my life that I want to stay private, but I still want my agent to be capable to knowing all that without
So
explicitly
you want
giving
the
this
benefits
information.
of personalization without having to give away all of your confidential data. And that's what we're looking at here. Brilliant. That's really interesting. Thank you. Alex, we've talked about the promise of some of these technologies. We've also talked about how getting there is not necessarily very easy, that implementation right now it can be a challenge in circumstances. What do you think the steps need to be to make it more user friendly, more readily available to CPOs or engineers or CISOs or whoever it may be who's looking to adopt confidential computing and the technologies around that?
Um, that's a great question. Um, First of all, whatever is our conversation is right now is one of the ways to cross that bridge. Just to talk about that, to talk about
Education.
the opportunity and education. Um, Obviously, just hooking up one of the bigger players and building the actual user friendly solution on top of the confidential computing will be instantly picked up by the other corporations, and they will start adopting that. But to be honest with you, it all comes down to money in the end. So
Many things do.
yeah, and just because majorly the current technology companies build their wealth on top of the data and trying to keep it within all those ecosystem that they're building, trying to surround you with all the services, with the Ring trying to keep all the information, all the footage on your doorbell with it and share it for money with the law enforcement and all of that. There are only two ways to overcome that: top down or bottom up. So top down, we need people on the government level to think of the customer and
Regulators,
regulate
standards, those
and
sorts of folks.
regulate the
Yep.
fact that some parts of our life need to be kept in the confidential computing, which basically allows everybody to give the same level of services that we are getting right now without exploiting our information. That's a top down. Bottom up
Okay.
is basically me making the same decision. I can go and use ChatGPT AI agent or Claude AI or Gemini, whatever, right? Any of those big guys for my personal use and share all my information with them. Or if I would have a user-friendly solution that will probably going to cost more, most certainly going to cost more, but will be confidential, and I'm going to trust it with the same
That's worth your
capabilities,
while.
but that's worth my while. That's worth
Yeah.
my money. That's a bottom up. So yeah, the education, and we need to push from both sides.
I would add to that, open source does a great job. Having open
Absolutely.
source examples that people can use to try this out and build products, or at least start off their journey, uh, is a huge thing. And I'm involved with the Confidential Computing Consortium, which is an open source part of the Linux Foundation, where organizations such as the big chip vendors and the big CSPs, but also ISVs and people like Super Protocol can get together, engage with regulators, engage with open source, and work on standards and all those sorts of things together is a great way of doing it. But we've got to meet the bottom up and the top down have got to meet in the middle somehow, and we've got to find ways to make that happen. I absolutely agree. One of the things I like to ask my guests is what you think someone like you should be worrying about in 2 to 5 years. And let's say we talked about the CPO role, right? The Chief Product Officer. What will be different in their lives in 2 to 5 years? Or what should they be thinking about now to prepare for that time? Where do you think we should be looking for that?
Oh, there are several things coming in mind.
Say as many as you like.
I
That's
mean,
fine. I don't
right
mind.
now, the biggest shift in the product industry, in the like not a chief product officer, but just if you're a product owner, right?
Yep.
The biggest shift that I see for the last, let's say, 2 years, 3 years, is that companies are looking for people with way more technical skills than it was before. You need to know the game. You need to know the technology. You need to have experience working with the technology if you want to be a product guy. Nobody needs the manager anymore. I don't agree with that. Everybody needs a manager, but there is a belief that this part of
A
the job,
trend.
trend
Okay.
that this part of the job can be easily automated, and many things can be automated, need to be
Yeah.
automated, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember when it took me a while to create like a Jira ticket with explicitly having like a user flow and everything. Now I can do that in seconds with AI helping me to do that.
Yeah.
Will I check out later on? Obviously, I'm not gonna leave it like that. I need to make sure that everything is there, nothing get messed up. But yeah, it takes me less time. this is good and bad. The good thing is that you have a way better communication with the tech team. And I was always hands-on, but from the early days of being a product guy, I remember back in the day, I went to my head of IT and said, "Give me the tools. I want to start writing code." He's like, "You want to become a coder?" I'm like, "No, no, no. I just need to speak the same language." So the moment he allowed my code to be merged into with everybody else's, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't need to do anything
Sure.
else. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
level
Yeah.
I want. I don't need to be good at it. I need just to have the knowledge. But I've seen a lot of really good product guys who are very good at the marketing side, on a customer side, but not on the technology side. Not anymore. So that's definitely changing right now. So for all those products that are listening, go and learn your tech side. But then we're coming to the whole, like, a bigger problem of the AI era. And the biggest shift that I'm seeing, not only with the product role, but the same goes for every like developer role, marketing role, most of the roles that I see around me. The problem is that nobody needs juniors. I would rather train AI; it will be way faster, way cheaper, and he will give me the same
Yeah.
result as that I will train
So
juniors.
yeah. So how do you get a foothold to get to learn the experience to move up? Right.
So when recently I had a conversation with my oldest one. She's in a high school, but she's already like asking questions about what should I do, what profession should I choose, and she has some ideas, and we talked about that. And I'm like, do not expect that anyone good will hire you after the university. Not gonna happen, because you will have no experience. Nobody needs you. AI will do the way better job than you do after you will graduate your university with all
Yep.
your loans, student loans, and your theoretical knowledge and everything. So you need to focus on getting those internships, the experience, as
Yeah.
much as
Yeah.
possible, because otherwise you'll be stuck. So I think we will see way more people doing years of free work just to get this experience.
That's going to change the economy quite significantly.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. That's again very interesting. So the last thing, again, I'd like to talk about is we've never met in person, right, Alex?
No.
And I'm very we've talked a lot about AI today, and I'm really worried about deep fakes. Yeah, and I see what looks like a brick wall behind you, but I know that computers can generate brick walls, right? So what I like to do is I like to ask my guests a question um, to explain something to me to convince me, hopefully, that you're not AI, right? And it's not so much the answer, it's how you do the explanation, right? So my random question for the day is: outside my window, the weather is terrible, right? Explain to me how I can be sure that that is not necessarily the same to you. That outside your window, you're not seeing exactly the same weather. Tell me.
Um. First of all, how many times have you asked this question?
This is the first time I've ever
No,
asked
no,
this
no, no.
question.
I mean this type of question to how many people?
I ask it to all of my guests, so quite a few times now.
Quite a few times. So, first of all, if AI would be listening for all those answers, he'll be already prepared to answer this one as well, because they would know the pattern how to convince you if you were convinced the previous time. So that's one. Obviously we don't have the same weather. At least it's early morning, not early, it's morning for me. It's because I'm in New York, and the weather here is, I would not say great, because I like much warmer ones, but we don't have a rain. That's a good one for me. um and just being on different continents, ensuring that we don't have the same weather. Um, how do I say? Obviously, I can show you, but that can be deep faked. But the fact that I'm not wet, and that's my first meeting in the morning, kind of tells you that there were no rain on the street.
Okay, so I got to take that. I think actually for me, it was the first part of the answer that was more convincing than the second part of
Yes,
the answer. The
absolutely.
second part of the answer could have been an AI answer. The fact that you've gone quite meta about that was kind of good.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
thank you very much.
AI would definitely go and jump and answer your question. The person,
Well, and until of course it starts listening to your question, answered the question, then it's gonna. But yeah, absolutely. So thank you very much indeed, Alex. This has been lots of fun.
thank you.